Okay, we're back for part 3 of the illustrious Trimet Board meeting. I'm determined to get through this. I want to know what these people are doing, and we need to start paying attention.
Thank you so much. Now to our first business resolution that we have before us today. Resolution 17-03-22, approving the proposed fiscal year 2018 annual budget for submission to the Multnomah County Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission. Mr. General Manager, I believe you or our CFO have a presentation regarding our budget.
We do indeed, and so, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, again, we're very pleased to be able to present this proposed budget to you. Again, just to remind you of the process, this would be a recommendation to approve the budget for review by the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission. We'll have a public hearing with the TSCC at your meeting or prior to your regular meeting in April, and then final consideration in May. First of all, what we always want to do with this is to sort of look at where we are. So 101.5 million rides last year. We're the 28th largest metropolitan area.
There's that elusive figure, 101 million. What do you say? 101 million rides. 101 million rides. It's a lot of rides, but remember, every time somebody gets on the bus and off the bus, that's 2 rides. So if you take 2 modes of transit, if you take the bus to the train to get to Portland, that's 4 rides. It's 1 person taking 4 rides. If you take the bus to the train to the bus, that's 6 rides for 1 person. So the 101 million is not, I've always been curious why well, obviously we know why they use the rides, because it sounds better than using the amount of people that actually do use the transit system.
Area, but 8th in transit ridership. And just to note, sometimes we're the tallest amongst others in the industry, but this ridership trend that we've been talking about is affecting the industry broadly across the United States with very few exceptions. And so we've seen ourselves actually grow from the number 9 per capita ridership to the number 8 over the last year.
And that's correct. As somebody who follows public transportation around the country, people aren't riding it because it's horrible, okay? You can look at any city in the United States and you can see how horrible it is. Trains don't show up, buses don't show up, it's unreliable, it's dangerous, it's dirty. That's across the country. The public transportation industrial complex is not a user-friendly system, and that's why people aren't riding, and that's why Trimet ridership is down. I'm sure that's why. If it was a more reliable, more user-friendly system, then people would ride it, but there's no interest by the technocracy that runs our public transportation. Don't forget, all these transit agencies across the country are run by a professional technocracy, like McFarland and his crew. They're not elected. They're appointed by politicians, basically. Okay, and politicians, you know how it works. It's a revenue stream, and all revenue streams need to be controlled tightly by the oligarchy. So public transportation has been allowed to descend into complete chaos. At the same time, they've spent multiple billions and billions of dollars to expand it. And that's just fostering the entire corporate welfare system. I sincerely believe that public transportation in this country is a predatory system. It sucks wealth out of the riders. It sucks wealth out of the taxpayers. It only gives the public back its bare minimum. Meanwhile, these boondoggle contracts, these transit executives with their outrageous salaries, it is not a system that is set up for the public. It's a system that's set up to advantage the people that are connected.
We know that 73% of our adults ride at least once a year. 77% of those who ride are choice riders, and 85% of our riders are satisfied. And we'll see more about that as you get into the attitude and awareness survey. 85% are satisfied. Obviously, they're not reading the Twitter, and they're not listening to the dispatch. So, these state-sponsored surveys, they're basically fake news.
I mean, everything is fake news now. You can't believe anything the government says. You can't believe anything the media says. You certainly can't believe anything people like McFarland says.
That will be presented during the briefing period. We did a number of things this fiscal year. We included in that budget passed the major track improvements at Rose Quarter and upcoming here the end of April and 1st of May track improvements at 11th and Morrison and Yamhill. We increased rail reliability thanks to the great efforts of our team.
They've increased rail reliability. Sorry, I don't believe it's fake news because I listen to this. You know, there are a few people that are actually, I'm listening to this, okay? I listen to it. It's part of my day is listening to this stuff. It's not reliable, so I don't know where they're coming up with the figures. But it's Trimet, you know. We know who they are and what they do. They're a government agency creating pro-propaganda for themselves.
We expanded bus service on many lines. We persevered through many snow and ice events, many more than we wanted to. And we entered beta testing with our fastback.
See, his little smile and chuckle about, we persevered through many... There was so much suffering during those events, so much human suffering. You know, those of us that follow this know what really happened. You didn't persevere. You went through because you're not accountable. Okay, anything that happens to you, eventually it will end, and you'll just go about your business.
System. As we look at our financial forecast, we do see a healthy increase in payroll tax, $24 million in the next year. That includes the 2016 tax increment that, for example, Marion Haynes testified to earlier. That's $5.2 million. And the overall for payroll tax is $366 million in this budget. We are projecting
$366 million from the payroll tax. That's the one that's levied onto everybody that's working in the Portland Trimet region.
An increase in passenger revenue. Again, no fare increases, but we do expect the increase in revenue over the next year, hopefully in response to additional ridership. Related to the financial forecast, we also see some...
I need to break in on that one. No, there's no increase in fares because they're already at the top fare. They've been at the top end of the fare for quite a while now. And I was reading an article. You can check my blog if you want to see the article. Trimet is one of the least affordable transit districts in the country.
Increases projected in federal funding. We'll have to watch this carefully. Current appropriations do include sort of the continuation of the 16 level for the federal fiscal year 17. So that might be a reduction of about 2% over what we had projected, and that would carry forward. But nonetheless...
Now, you know as well as I do that the Republicans hate public transportation. And some of their hatred is justified, but most of it isn't, okay? A lot of the anti-public transportation is because of these boondoggle projects, and you know they serve only this tiny percentage of the public. But at the same time, these Republicans want to increase the military, though. So I mean, stealing money from the public transportation to pay for the military I'm totally against that. That's completely wrong.
Generally, we do see some increase in upcoming years because of the maturation of the timeline of past investments in our system related to Green Line and West entering the eligibility for the essentially added eligibility for state of good repair funds because of their age. And again, the FAST Act has passed, so there is some security for that for the next few years. We'll see some level of federal funds continue. Those are appropriated or not appropriated. Those are authorized by the FAST Act and paid for out of the Federal Highway Trust Fund. Our overall budget requirements, day-to-day operating, $532 million. There is an initial payment that is due from the federal government for the Orange Line full funding grant agreement. That's paying us back for money we borrowed to put that project in place. That's $100 million. We have a series of capital
Paying back money to Trimet that Trimet borrowed. There's the crony capitalism, the corporate welfare. So they pass the tax increase. They don't wait to get the money. They go right out to Goldman Sachs and take the money, and Goldman Sachs charges them whatever it is, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, whatever it is. They make money on this. This is an integral part of the public transportation system. Is the public money gets used to funnel into the bankers' pockets. People don't connect that. It's huge. It's one of the major reasons why public transportation exists, because it's just beefing up the current system. It's got nothing to do with people. It's got to do with financial motives of the banking system and the bureaucracy.
and operating projects. That's both repair as well as expansion of $177 million. There's pass-through requirements, things we do like the 5311 funds and the funds that are for elderly and disabled transportation you've seen through this STFAC process you've approved earlier. And then there's fund balances and about a 3% contingency. So the total budget is about $1.1 billion, as you see on the presentation. Our background as we begin to look at this is that we continue to serve a growing region. We're expecting 400,000 more people here in the next 20 years.
Everybody says that. LA said that. Seattle said. Everybody with a tax initiative says that we expect another 400,000. I don't know where the hell you're expecting to put that many people, because there's no space already. I mean, I don't know, man.
Years. The Portland Business Alliance's cost of congestion study notes that congestion will triple without more transit and improvements.
That's a lie. Public transportation makes no perceptible change in the car traffic. It's unperceptible, the amount of difference that public transportation makes.
Continue to grow and improve service and to meet that mission that you see outlined there. With the board, we have identified a series of 6 budget themes that the budget responds to, and we'll go through these very quickly one by one, but certainly safety, implementing the service enhancement plans, maintaining and preserving the system, to improve system reliability, to build ridership through quality service and innovation, and to advance regional corridor projects.
It's funny that the enhanced regional corridor projects is last on that list, because that's actually the #1 priority. You know, it all sounds good on paper, of course. It's all, remember, this is all marketing. It's all marketing. How do we get what we want from the people? So we have to package it up in a way that sounds good.
So let me first start on how this proposed budget addresses safety. First, we have a number of pedestrian safety improvements at various locations throughout the region, as noted on the slide. And you've had an update recently on what those projects look like in the before and after. This is a lovely after photo on the top. We also see that we will continue our focus on the operator rules compliance issues. That includes additional training for operators and as well as over-the-shoulder advice and things like the simulator that was discussed earlier. We are continuing the implementation of our safety management system and training and the recertification training that will continue to focus on that. Again, one of the major investments.
Well, I'm just happy I'm not working there anymore, because as you can see, the micromanaging of the bus operator position continues unabated. It's getting worse and worse. The micromanaging of the, I mean, Jesus, I don't know how people survive this.
Investments related to safety is training, and that will continue unabated. We have upgrades to our closed-circuit TV system, really getting to a networked digital system as opposed to some of the original cameras were analog. And a series of other investments, including supporting continuous investment teams, upgrading some of our intrusion detection at key areas like the West Side Tunnel or certain of our bridges, roadway worker protection. We are enhancing the safety of those who are working on the railroad while we're under operation, environmental and sustainability improvements and ergonomic improvements to our bus operator cabs. And you've heard about all of those initiatives over time, and those continue or are expanded. Second, related to our service enhancement plan, this is a very healthy increase in bus service this year, 4.1%, or about 1,600 hours per week. 18% of that is really expended to improve reliability.
4.4% increase, but it's still not back to the 1990s level of bus service. They're still not at the level of bus service they had in the late 90s.
That's really making up for increased congestion that's slowing the whole transportation network that our buses operate on. But 82% is really for expanded service. And those expanded service will be subject to the ordinance that you'll have first hearing on later today. They are listed here. They are implemented both in September and in March, twice a year, as we are implementing the growth in the payroll tax on a gradual basis, and as, frankly, as the agency is able to put that new service on the street. There are limits in terms of buses and facilities and drivers and all of those things that sort of also meter our ability to put service on the street.
Now, he just talked about the public transportation fail. There's limits to the service, the operators, and the buses, and the repair. There's limits to that. You see, that should be the number one priority, is making sure you have enough drivers, enough buses, and enough people to fix them. But they don't have that capability. You see, that's the fail right there. He just said it. That should be the number one priority, is making sure you have enough of those things, but they don't. And they're limited by how many they can have. In other words, they designed a system that's an automatic fail. Think about it.
Third, emphasis of the board was to maintain and preserve the system. We have a number of other of initiatives related to that. First is the Blue Line Station rehabilitation is continuing. The bus replacement and expansion is continuing. A number of facility improvements that are included in our capital program. A number of rail reliability improvements, including what you were briefed on recently around the steel bridge, will be coming up to play in the next year. We have some track maintenance improvements related to WES, related to that aging of the new, what was once a new system. And again, IT servers and equipment are all part of that. Related to the system reliability, we've included improvements in control center staffing. We've included staffing for maintenance training to get higher quality product or vehicles out on the street, as well as quality assurance of our maintenance program. And actually added 34 full-time equivalents to our maintenance workforce, just related to really trying to sharpen our on-time performance work related to the reliability of the vehicles. And that includes both, probably a little more emphasis here in terms of the 34 FTE on the rail side, but also the bus side as well.
Well, they certainly need to do something, because the on-time performance is really lacking these days.
Relating to building ridership and to Board Member Stovall's question, we do have, of course, substantial additional bus service added here. We think that adding to the additions, for example, that went on this year related to line 20, Burnside Stark, is really important to building ridership. Some lines will be strong on ridership, some lines will be strong on coverage. We're always looking at that balance between ridership and service to outlying areas. Some service is going to be kind of a pilot to begin to build demand and ridership, and once it's evidence, we can raise service related to that. And again, we can talk further about that as we get to the ordinance. We will be implementing the HOP Fast Pass, and we again believe that will reduce the sort of impediment of that fare box, which discourages ridership, finding the quarters in your pocket. So and also continuing to improve rail reliability. And again, we've seen great results on that over the last year, and we expect to see a continued improvement in both bus and rail reliability, frankly. And then we also have some interesting technology solutions. One that we need to give you a much deeper report on is rail operation optimization. I'll get it out yet. Technology or route. But it essentially is an attempt to have real-time monitoring of the light rail vehicle operation and really big data flows, if you will, back to the shop so that we can begin to look at real time about what's happening on the light rail vehicles and hopefully improve the maintenance program and improve our alerting us to anything that might be going wrong before it actually affects service.
Sounds like more pork to me. More technology. You know, they keep adding more and more technology, and it's I don't see it, but who am I?
So those are, I think, those very important initiatives. And related to regional projects, we again will be continuing to work on the region's projects that they have initiated and advanced to us, including.
The PAL division project was axed by the Trump budget, by the way. There's no federal money for that. I bet he doesn't say anything about it.
Division Transit Project. And again, we will be lead for the next phase of work associated with that. And our goal is to submit that for a rating associated with the federal fiscal year 18 budget. For the Southwest Corridor, preliminary engineering and federal environmental work would begin apace in fiscal year 18. Just wanted to note just a little bit about the HOP Fast Pass. Again, I think it will be one of the big initiatives of the next year. $4.5 million to finish the infrastructure. We have ongoing operating costs of about $3.4 million. And again, we have support for that really in marketing and customer communications, and we're staffed up to handle that. But again, I would just remind you of the business case associated with this. This is actually, in our view, a long-term, lower-cost way to collect our fare revenue compared to cash payments that we currently rely on.
Of course, he's leaving out all the other aspects of the HOP program, like tracking customers, tracking their movements, being able to use that for police purposes. I didn't realize it was so expensive. Did you see his little presentation there? It's going to cost millions of dollars in support staff for that HOP pass. So there's a more non-direct service-related positions. You know, that's basically building the Trimet bureaucracy.
And individual passes. So we think this will, A, help ridership, but also is a good business investment for us. So again, I noted earlier the budget timelines. Again, this budget would begin on July. And with that, I'm going through this pretty quickly given the pressure of the agenda. I'm sure Dee or I would be happy to answer any questions you may have in consideration of this resolution, but we do recommend your approval.
Questions from directors? Discussion?
There's nobody else.
Director Stovall?
I think there was. I think this budget is in alignment with what we've laid out from a board perspective as far as moving forward and as far as we make these investments. I will comment from the board's perspective. Neil has already commented. I think one of the major things that we had addressed this morning in the public comment is what's going on with the new transit police location. And as a board member and as a Finance and Audit Committee member, I think we've had a pretty thorough review. I think it was mischaracterized as to what this facility was going to do. It is a replacement for something we already have in place, and it's an investment in actually lowering some of our overall costs. We lease now, in the future we'll own. We're not increasing our police force based on moving that location. So I think it was, in my opinion.
He's still apologizing for the $11 million police station, and I'm not agreeing at all with his point of view on that. I mean, for Trimet to be putting money in for police is really abhorrent. It should be used only for transit related, for actual service related, not for building police stations. Why do they can't they put them in the actual police station? I mean, all these police from the transit division are made up of police from other municipalities and counties and whatever. Trimet doesn't have its own police. They're police from other jurisdictions. So why can't they just use a room in the other jurisdiction? How come they have to have a whole police station funded by Trimet?
And I think based on the information that we have presented, it's actually been mischaracterized in a sense in what was presented. Because again, by owning rather than leasing, we are actually adding value back to the system and to our stakeholders, riders, and everybody else that's engaged throughout this region. So I think there was a lot of comment about that, and again, I believe it was mischaracterized in the presentation. So if there's, of course, anybody that wants to follow up with me personally or individually, I'm happy to do so. But I am supportive of this budget. I'm supportive of that investment.
Of course you're supportive of the budget. Of course you're supportive of the investment because you're a sock puppet. You do what they tell you to do. You don't see it from the rider. You don't see it from our point of view. You're incapable of seeing things from our point of view, Travis.
That gives us a better opportunity to control our costs both now and well into the future. So that's just specifically in response to what it came up earlier. And this now this is just moving it forward to the TSCC. And we'll have some other opportunities to get this back as we delve into some more information. I think also as we present this.
I'm surprised they haven't made Travis the chairman of the board, because Travis is the main apologist at the Trimet board. I'm sure everybody who's watched this, Travis Stovall is the #1 defender of the integrity of the Trimet system in McFarland. You know, he's the biggest blabbermouth when it comes to defending the honor of the Trimet executive culture.
Strategic financial plan in the future. You'll also get some additional insight as to how this aligns with the strategic financial plan. We've had some initial exposure to that that will tighten and then make that presentation, I think, at the board meeting sometime in the future.
April. Yep.
There are no more questions to General Manager D in regards to the budget. Oh, I'm sorry, Greg. I looked down and didn't see your hand. And
well, I know this straight alignment is difficult.
All right, Director Prosser.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm also very supportive of this budget.
Of course you're supportive. You're a sock puppet. Notice how there's not one critical remark being made, not even one.
Proposal. Dee and her staff have done an excellent job. We are seeing, and we got a little bit this morning, some changes in how things are displayed, and that's appropriate to go through and look at standard operating procedures and look to see if things have changed, and that needs to change. So there are a few things which Dee will point out at the right time. The other thing that I really appreciate about this budget is the focus on the budget themes that the board adopted, and careful compliance with the strategic finance plan guidelines. And I think staff do an excellent job on monitoring those and responding to changes they need to make to fit within that. So thank you, Dee, for your hard work and for all of your staff, and actually for staff throughout the agency, because people don't understand that putting this document together, it touches every office in this agency. And early on, getting ideas and proposals, working those up the chain and winnowing them down. So it is a lot of work for this agency, for any agency, and I know exactly how much it is. So been through it many times myself, so good job.
Motion to approve the resolution 17-03-22, approving the proposed fiscal year 2018 annual budget for submission to Multnomah County Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Duly moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
And that's what you see at the Trimet Board meeting is two voices spoke in favor of the budget, and one voice was, you did a great job. You know, they always extol the virtues of the management. And no voices against it, no questions against it. And that's why they're sock puppets. I mean, it's evident. Here's their budget, and there's not one voice questioning anything in it out of I don't know how many people showed up there. They're sock puppets. I don't know. It's discouraging. That's why I stopped watching this, because it's so pointless,